Well, hello there. Welcome to Talking Tennis. Hi, Jerome.
How's it going? All good?
All good, all good. You obviously,
Yeah,
we're here to talk.
pretty brief match that you just had with Herkash and Ruud.
Yes, it didn't take as long as we may have thought we were hoping for, but it's fine. We can still kind of debrief on it. But yeah,
Does Ruud look pretty comfortable now, do you think? Or
as comfortable as Ruud could look, there's always question marks with Ruud. That's the thing, though.
Yeah. Well, when he, semis, quarters, that's when we start to see if he's got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we don't actually know Ruud's opponent yet because that's going to be between Lorenzo, Sonego and Hugo Humbert, which is currently underway right now. I've got it on my TV in the background. Sonego has Sonego has won the first set and he's got break points to potentially go break up in the second, but looking like he's currently trying to prove himself to be the draw's main wild card, even though he's technically a lucky loser.
Yeah. I mean, this match is the same one as I don't know what round. I think it might have been the same round actually as last year as well, maybe even a round later. But I think Humbert had 4 or 5 match points in this fixture last year, and Sonego somehow got through. But it looks more comfortable this year, and he's comfortably beat Felix the other day. Looking decent on the Monte Carlo clay.
It's not surprising. Sonego usually has like one good tournament a year or a couple of good tournaments a year, and he's definitely very comfortable on the clay. I think obviously his big sort of career highlight was reaching the Rome semis a few years back and making Dominic Thiem's life very hard in the process. So it doesn't surprise me that he's kind of come alive a little bit here.
Yeah, he loves the crowd as well. So yeah,
but against Ruud in the quarters,
I mean,
I don't think he's the favourite in that.
I don't think he's the favourite, but I think, as you said earlier, I think Ruud's a bit, he's not a bankable player these days. I think he can have off days, and if Sonego's, pumped up and firing, I think he's got a chance of causing a bit of an upset.
I think Ruud seems to have moved out of the situation he's been in where he could lose to anyone, and maybe he's just got a certain limit where it comes to he a threshold he needs to cross when it comes to the people he is losing to, which at the moment is kind of your top 10, top 20 players.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Which then would mean he's like this question marks really come up for the semi-final, which he we're looking way far ahead, but that would be potentially the winner of Djokovic or de Minaur.
Yeah. Speaking of, should we talk about some of the round of 16 matches we had?
Yeah, so like if we talk about sort of what I was thinking was sort of work our way through the draw and sort of talk about the matches and how we got to this, and then maybe once we're on that quarterfinal, talk about how it's potentially going to go.
Yeah, nice. Fitting to start at the top of the draw then with the main man. Repeat of the same fixture last year. Djokovic able to get through a bit of adversity in the first set. Was a breakdown, came through, and then pulled away in the second set. Not a very convincing, but I don't think we expected really a convincing match from Novak.
No, it's odd. Where like when it comes to we have very high expectations of Djokovic, except in Monte Carlo. Because the last few years it's not quite gone his way. Weirdly, since he came back from that elbow injury he had in 2017, went out. He's consistently kind of gone out early or before he should have in the tournament. Up to since then, pretty much, even though it was kind of his renaissance period, and
he's not made it past the quarters since then.
Which I maybe he's fine later in this sort of point in his career. He's finding the clay transition a little harder than maybe he did in his early career.
I think a lot of it comes down to the amount he's playing as well. He's playing minimal tournaments nowadays, and so that puts a lot more pressure, and a lot more is riding on that on this Monte Carlo tournament, because it is the transition for him. And I think especially this season when he decided to pull out and have a bit of a break in Miami. I mean, yeah, but.
Yeah, I mean, with Djokovic, he does look a bit more positive, and I'm thinking with the Olympics coming up, he probably wants to get himself in a bit more of a mindset of locking down during these best of 3 clay tournaments, because in many ways that's going to be the main data gathering exercise for getting that elusive Olympic medal. It's weird we're talking about that rather than about Roland Garros, but I think that's what we're kind of hyped for Djokovic to get, right?
I think I think that is his main goal this year, definitely, because it will be no doubt, it will be his last chance at an Olympic gold. But yeah, I mean, faces de Minaur tomorrow, who came through Popyrin. Really interesting narrative as well there yesterday. Popyrin becoming the first Australian into the round of 16 in Monte Carlo in 20 years. The last time was 2004, Leighton Hewitt. So, and then ironically, just minutes later, followed by de Minaur into the round of 16. So yeah, these two guys, doing a little bit of writing a bit of history for Australian tennis in the Principality, but de Minaur ultimately getting through Popyrin pretty comfortably in straight sets today. I didn't actually watch that match, but I imagine it was.
It's not a big surprise. I didn't see it either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of the tennis I watched was kind of afterwards, but I was relying very expertly on Damien and Kira's commentary throughout the day. I would say it's not a surprise. I think de Minaur's game is slightly more built for clay than Popyrin's, which is a lot about raw power. That being said, I think de Minaur is one of those Aussie players, a bit like Leighton Hewitt, where you would think with his style of being a bit more of a counter puncher, a bit more of a like his game based on movement and retrieving and less about his weaponry, that he would have done better on clay up to this point. Obviously, it's not as simple as that, because the movement on clay is actually very different to a hard court. Like, he's probably very good on a slow hard court. Having said that, actually, probably better on faster courts like grass and.
Well, yeah, I mean, even
grass
though
not raining hard.
Yeah, I think you said it there. The movement, I think that's key to de Minaur, because yeah, he can move well, but I don't think his ground strokes are suited at all to the surface. So I think that ultimately is why he hasn't done so well on the surface in previous years. In saying that, Djokovic also not his favoured surface either. So be an interesting match. I mean, I don't know. I think Djokovic will get through in straights, but probably won't make it easier for himself. One thing I noticed from his match with Musetti today is that his net play. I mean, I know there's been this whole saga about his net play and volleys and smashes over the years, but they have definitely improved. But today was, I think the first time in a while, for me anyway, that I've seen him have a really off day at the net, and you could see it was getting to him, and Musetti was just picking him off at the net. So if I think we'll see him stay back a bit more tomorrow against de Minaur, but I think that's where he'll probably outdo the Aussie.
Yeah, I think if he's a bit more honest, he's going to want to finish the points, because de Minaur's going to want to go for the rally. I genuinely don't know which one this one's going to go, because in theory you would put Djokovic as the favourite. De Minaur beat him the last time they played in Oz, in United Cup.
Yeah.
I think with de Minaur, maybe feeling a bit bad on clay, Djokovic not being super comfortable in Monte Carlo, and being a bit rusty, that leaves him open and potentially vulnerable. Like you said, he wasn't amazing against Musetti, but he got the job done. I think if it's come down to who's more comfortable on a clay court, Djokovic. If it's going to come down to confidence, it might end up being de Minaur.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. But then again, it's hard to predict anything about confidence in Djokovic, because Djokovic could just switch it on, and it depends what mood he's in. I saw video clips of him today. He was shaking at the changeover, doing we've seen it in the past a lot. I don't actually know what that is, if it's a health thing or if it's a mental thing. I don't know what that is, but we've seen it a lot. So yeah, it depends. You're right. I think maybe he's not 100%. So we'll see how he's feeling tomorrow.
I mean, look, if Ruud is in form and he's in pole position to make the Monte Carlo semis, which is now guaranteed, as we've talked about, I think particularly if he plays Humbert, who looks like he's still making this a contest with Sonego. But let's just say it is Casper Ruud. Ruud will probably prefer to play de Minaur out of the two. That being said, could this be the event where Ruud is finally a threat to Djokovic?
Yeah. I think
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but I wouldn't put my house in it or anything. But
no.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what Matthew's saying there is interesting. He did have trouble finishing off those points when he had mid-court balls, but that was because ultimately he was, the approach was never really good enough, and his net play was not on point as well. So he made a meal out of it. That's why. And yeah, it's going to be tough against de Minaur, who can rally the ball well, and it's going to be a grudge fest. And yeah, I still can't see Djokovic breaking down.
I think talking about it, I mean, like, obviously Damien's assessment of the match was that Musetti played amazing for most of the first set. Had points for double break. If he converted those, maybe he would have got the set, and Djokovic would have had to come back from a set down, and it would have been we'd be talking about a very different match. I don't get me wrong. I think Djokovic in all likelihood would have done the comeback, but you never know how a third set could go in that scenario. But Musetti looked like he was actually doing a pretty good job to go, 4-1 up? And outplaying Djokovic for sort of the first portion of the match, as he's done in previous clay court encounters. With that being said, is there sort of glimmers of hope for Musetti again?
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing well this year.
Well, he's been playing well the last couple of weeks since he became a dad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely glimmers of hope. I mean, it's still struggling to find out, or kind of comprehend what his favored conditions are, because he keeps having these varied results.
I think it's definitely clay. His best results have come on clay.
Yeah. I mean, his best. Yeah, well, what do you mean, his best match results or his best tournament results?
Both.
Yeah. What tournaments has he won?
So if I look it up, I can think of him one off the top of my head. He won Hamburg, beating Alcaraz in the final in 2022.
Okay. Was that when it was 250?
It was a 500.
It was 500. Okay.
Beat Alcaraz in the final of that. He also has his only other title was winning in Napoli, beating Berrettini in the final, which was a indoor hard court.
Napoli Challenger?
No, 250.
Napoli?
I think it was a one-off tournament.
I was going to say, when was that?
2022. Again, yeah. So both his titles come in 2022 as tour level stuff. It's a challenger now, but it was a 250 for that 1 year.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, he's had good results on the clay. He's one of those players where, he's got potential, but I can't really see him pushing on anytime soon, really into the, where top 10. I don't think that's likely, but
I mean, yeah, his best results. So he's made quarterfinals of Monte Carlo, which was last year, and Roland Garros is the only Grand Slam he's made second week of. So I think the signs are pointing that he's a clay person, and actually Jake seems to be on that page as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, completely fair.
We've already talked a little bit about sort of Ruud Hurkacz. Ruud was just pummeling Hurkacz and playing amazing and dominating with the forehand. But I think Hurkacz tried to defend as much as he could, but Ruud was just way too strong. I'm not sure how much you were able to watch, given you were on a train at that point.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of that one, but it looks as if Ruud's finding a bit of form. I know, obviously, against Hurkacz, who's a bit of a Bambi on ice, even though he won the title last week. But good result for Ruud. I think it'll be interesting. I think he'll easily get past. Well, I don't want to say easily. I think he's. I don't know. I can't see Sonego pushing him too much. He looks like he's finding his groove. That's my view.
I'm of the same view.
Yeah. So that's the top half of the draw.
And then we move on to the third quarter, which arguably was where a lot of the drama, like not the on-court like play drama, but sort of the in terms of match quality, that comes a couple of matches later.
Yeah.
But we're looking at like the drama that tennis Twitter was talking about and hyping up. And I think the one to start with would be Tsitsipas getting the biggest win he's had for a while against Zverev, but he didn't make it easy for himself.
Yeah, he took the scenic route, sat in 5-love up, somehow gets it done in a tiebreak eventually. But I'm really surprised. It's obviously on paper you wouldn't think, the casual fan would look and say, Tsitsipas beats Zverev. That's not too out of the blue. But for me, that is a massive win for Tsitsipas, considering the way he's been playing, considering the way Zverev's been playing. I did not see that coming, and he made it look comfortable, and he loves Monte Carlo. This might be a bit of a turning point heading into the full clay swing.
Yeah, I can't think of the last top 5 win he's had.
I think that's the first of this year for sure, but a while ago.
There you go. Yeah, the only top 15 players we have to beat since 2023 has been Zverev. Thanks, Shriri. So which is interesting, and that probably gives you an insight into that rivalry that they're having, those two players. Zverev will be disappointed. I think this was a tournament that he was probably looking to potentially have a good shot at winning, actually.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. I'm still quite shocked, to be honest. I thought I didn't watch the first set, but I watched the second set. And to be honest, all credit to Tsitsipas for getting over the line. But when he pulled it back in that tiebreak, Zverev had, he faltered at points where he should have finished off the point, and he could have easily taken it to a third set. So all credit to Tsitsipas finally refinding that good form on the clay.
And that's not the first time Tsitsipas has had that kind of win against Zverev. He went 2 sets to love up in that French Open semi-final in 2021. Zverev looked like he was pulling it back, and then Tsitsipas got the decisive break early on in the 5th and managed to ride the momentum. Much more dragged out, that one. I think it was clear that Tsitsipas was tight, because I think he was a break up in the first set, didn't get the job done there, and had to break again to get the job done, if that makes any sense. Like, had to serve for it 5-4 or something like that, and then had to serve for it again at 6-5. So there's definitely an element of tightness to Tsitsipas at the minute, maybe knowing how much pressure there is to get his season back on, his career back on track.
Yeah, precisely. So Tsitsipas plays Khachanov, who got through against Medvedev. Obviously, a bit of drama in the last two of Medvedev's matches. We'll talk a little bit about that. I watched. We'll go back to yesterday. Monfils Medvedev. I think everyone saw what the little tantrum that Medvedev had, and to be honest, I was watching it live and I really did feel for him. I'm not condoning his behavior because it's ridiculous, and we'll talk about that in a second. But 2 consecutive slow, no pace balls landing both deep of the baseline, and the line judge missing both of them. And what makes it worse is that they were back to back. After Leani had got the first one wrong, he then the second one he got right. But to be honest, yeah, I'm not condoning the tantrums, but I can feel for him because clay, he's already struggling enough on clay. He doesn't need stuff like that to get.
It's weird to me that we're talking about a guy who's won Rome as someone who struggles on clay.
Yeah, I'm still don't know how he won Rome, but and then the same happened again. He had a bit of a tantrum, not condoning it at all, and it's a bit of a shame, especially after what Medvedev came out and said at the start of the year, how he was going to make an effort to change his on-court behavior and change these kind of stints, and especially after his compatriot Rublev disqualified in early March in Dubai, and for what Medvedev was doing, shouting in French at that French line judge, the stuff he was saying, I'm really don't know how he didn't get a code violation at least from Leani, because it wasn't far off what Rublev was doing to the line judge in Dubai. So yeah, really disappointed with Medvedev in that sense, but I do also feel for him because I think he was very unfortunate with those 3 bad calls in consecutive matches. But yeah,
it's tough, and I get he's frustrated, and I think I was saying this. I was talking, chatting with Vance on Twitter about this. Medvedev generally doesn't make his tantrums personal. He generally just makes general sarcastic comments and is a bit sulky. These were very aggressive towards an individual, and that was him losing it a little bit, and I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah, this is disappointing to see, especially after his attempted efforts to change this kind of personality of his. But yeah, hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he looks back and says, I don't think he will. That's the shame. I don't know. He doesn't seem to feel, I don't know, regret for these things. But hopefully he'll prove us wrong.
We'll see what he says afterwards, I think. But Monte Carlo was always going to be a battle for him. I think Khachanov kept his cool. That's the thing, is that he kept his cool enough for it to not be the story. And Khachanov is someone who, if you give him the opportunity, he'll make his way through the draw. And he doesn't generally lose badly in those kind of situations. So yeah, and he likes it on clay, so he's done pretty well to make the quarters.
Yeah, definitely, and he's impressed me a lot. He always does. But looking at the quarterfinals tomorrow, I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I think that's the match of the day, Khachanov Tsitsipas.
Interesting.
I think Rune Sinner will be a lot more one-sided than people think, and I think Khachanov Tsitsipas will be the match of the day. I'm waiting for someone in the comments to tell me that they disagree with me, but I think Khachanov can beat Tsitsipas. And I know we talked about Tsitsipas refining his form or maybe changing his season/career around, but I think Khachanov can cause him some trouble.
Do you know their head-to-head?
I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing it's pretty one-sided in favor of Tsitsipas.
7-1.
7-1. Yeah, and
it was 5-0. It was 6-0. Khachanov beat Tsitsipas in Miami last year, but then Tsitsipas beat Khachanov in Paris. And that to me is interesting because that's during the point where we would say Tsitsipas was struggling, beat him in the Paris quarterfinal. I think clay, they've only ever played once on it, and that was in Rome in 2022, and that went 3. So I agree with you. I think Khachanov can beat Tsitsipas. I could see it being a good match. The data suggests that Tsitsipas might be the favourite.
Yeah, I love throwing the data out the window and going with my own call. But yeah, no, I do agree. I just got a feeling. I watched Khachanov today, and he's playing well, albeit against Medvedev, but he's crushing the ball, and I hope he can get through Tsitsipas.
He can. Yeah, I think he can. That's no reason why not. But I'm just wondering whether this is like Tsitsipas waking up and being in his favourite place, and doing something. That would be where I would kind of fall. But Khachanov is good enough to get to the semi-finals and make himself a contender. And obviously, he is already a 1,000 champion, albeit a while ago now. But he did achieve that. I guess it's going to come down to how Jannik Sinner is really for like the bottom half of the draw, because he tore through Struff without even trying very hard.
I think he's been playing at 60% so far this tournament.
We were talking about Sinner on clay and like the question marks around, Sinner's clay's not necessarily his best surface. How is 2.0 Sinner going to be on there? So far, same as on hard courts.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally in second gear, I think, and he's still punishing people. So I think Rune. I mean, talk about Rune today. Really tough.
That's the other big match today, and probably the best match of the day by miles.
Yeah, I mean, Rune had to. He started his day off finishing yesterday's match. He was a set and a breakup against Nadal, and he was forced into a decider. Eventually, got the job done in the third set, but had a bit of, I think, I had an hour break, and then took to the court against Grigor, which also went to 3 sets. Got his revenge in a thrilling match. Got his revenge for the defeat earlier in the year in the Brisbane final. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that will definitely play a part tomorrow against Sinner, because I think Rune is one of those players who we know his physical issues can taunt him in the past, especially playing 6 sets in pretty much 5 sets today. So yeah, it's going to be tough to see what he's like tomorrow, but I think that will play a part. And the way Sinner's playing, I think, yeah, it's pretty tough to see.
Rune does have a history of losing the next match after he plays a long one.
Yeah.
And Sinner's going to be looking for revenge, because he only narrowly lost to Rune at Monte Carlo last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Which people keep talking about. And I was like, I completely forgot about that, because I think that match between Rune and Sinner was very good, got overshadowed by the final Rune had against Rublev. Very much what happened next. So yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm not optimistic for Rune competing with Sinner. I know Ghosty asked before when I was covering that match, because I briefly switched over to let everyone know what's happening, because it was a dramatic end. And I said, yeah, no, if Rune, he asked, could Rune win ugly? And my original response was yes, he can. It's going to really depend on what kind of Sinner he faces and how fresh Rune is, which is a factor I wasn't thinking of at that point, and I've had time to consider.
Yeah, I think it will play a big part. I'm sure it will still be a good match, but the way Sinner is feeling the ball in Monte Carlo is pretty scary.
So I guess with what we're talking about, and at the minute it's 3 games all in the second set between Sonego and Humbert, and I said that Rune Dimitrov is the best match. But frankly, like if this one goes 3 and it stays as close as it is, this could be an absolute blockbuster.
We've seen it before.
But I guess with sort of the way we're kind of talking in terms of looking a bit further ahead, are we heading towards a Djokovic-Sinner final?
Yeah, it's looking that way. I'm tempted to give Ruud some of the spotlight in that top half. Really interested to see how he performs tomorrow. But then obviously anything can happen when he plays Djokovic. But is it finally time for Ruud to be beating Djokovic here? But yeah, I think the bottom half is all but locked up for Sinner. I think it's a bold statement, but I think you'd probably agree.
Yes, I agree. I mean, if it was the Tsitsipas from 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
3 years ago,
I'd be saying no. This is not that Tsitsipas, even though that win against Zverev was significant. I certainly don't think Khachanov is going to be much of a threat either. Yeah, I think it's going to be a dip from Sinner that lets him down. And I also agree with you. Ruud is the wild card in the top half of the draw that would prevent a Djokovic-Sinner final. And we've talked a bit about it. I've just looked up, Djokovic and Ruud's head-to-head. It's 5-0. And Ruud has never got a set off Djokovic.
Really?
Never. They've played 2 tie breaks in their career. And the closest one was 7-4 to Djokovic.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, it's a question of will this be his time?
Yeah, I mean, look, if
it's going to happen,
this feels like the kind of head-to-head where Ruud could prove someone wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And if his time is now, he's probably going to want to catch Djokovic at this period in his season, in his career. It's probably the best chance he'll have out of the last 5 meetings. So, who knows?
Yeah, this is definitely his best chance because Djokovic is probably weaker compared to, let's have a look. They played each other Rome 2020. Djokovic was unstoppable at that point. ATP Finals 2021. That was, Djokovic was having his Grand Slam, had just finished his Grand Slam attempt. Rome 2022, Djokovic again had just come off a good run in. I think he was on his way to the Rome title then. He was one of the 2 players to beat with Nadal. ATP Finals final. This was when Djokovic and Roland Garros last year. So all of those contexts, Djokovic wasn't looking particularly vulnerable in any of those. This is the most vulnerable Djokovic has been, where Ruud could play him.
Precisely. And it's all up to Ruud now to see if he'll hold his nerve. And it will all come down to, looking ahead, if it does come down to Saturday's semi-final, then we could see a bit of an upset. Wouldn't be surprising.
Let's kind of continue the fact. Let's just assume that Djokovic does beat Ruud. Maybe Ruud makes his life harder. Maybe finally gets a set off Djokovic. I think Djokovic's Sinner final is going to be interesting. I think that would be, despite Sinner's incredible momentum, I would probably be favouring Djokovic because I think on a clay matchup, I would be backing Novak slightly more. I know Sinner's a little bit more resilient when it comes to, happy to be defend a bit more and rally, compared to wanting to pull the trigger. But I'm wondering whether because he's slightly off his comfort zone. That's the opening Djokovic needs to kind of stop the rot in this rivalry that seems to be turning in Sinner's favour right now.
Yeah, I would. I'd agree with that. I think if they were to meet in the final, despite the form that Sinner's in, I think I could see Djokovic finding a way through. He's more experienced on clay in those positions as well, so I think that will definitely help, and I think that will make it. I think he will relish playing Sinner in the final. I think, the added weight of that match is a good thing for Djokovic. I think he thrives. He relishes the adversity. So yeah, I think I would have to agree with you, but Matthew doesn't agree with us.
No, he doesn't. And I get what you're saying. Like, Djokovic has the final. Like, Sinner has a lot of confidence right now.
I think
even a super confident Jannik Sinner would not be too bullish against Novak Djokovic because he's Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's all well and good to talk about confidence, but I think in those matchups, Djokovic tends to want it more, I think, especially after being beaten by him quite recently in a big on big stages. I think Djokovic is determined to get revenge, and I think when Djokovic is in that mindset, I think it's hard to go against him personally.
Yeah, I would say the same. I definitely would be more, if I was going to say, like, we've talked about a potential Djokovic Ruud semi and the Djokovic Sinner final. Which out of those two finals, which of those matches is Djokovic more likely to lose? The final against Sinner, for me. The Ruud match depends on Ruud playing the match of his career.
Yeah, it's so strange to think that, because we've seen we just seen so much success and from Ruud on the surface. It's weird just writing him off like that, but I mean, I suppose that's what kind of the stage that Ruud is at in his career, which is quite saddening to think about.
I think there's definitely a group of players behind Zverev who are in the can beat everyone else except the top guys category. Ruud, Rublev, Hurkacz, that kind of group, I think, are very, very similar. I think Rune and Zverev are the best hope of creating some kind of chasing pack to the top four and making themselves and putting themselves in the mix with them.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I think personally, I don't know what it is, or I've got an agenda, but I agree with Zverev, but I wouldn't. I don't know. There's something about Rune.
Rune right now, no.
Yeah.
Rune last year, yes, and it depends on which one's more accurate.
Yeah, if Rune can get to it's a potential thing with Rune. We know his potential, but it's a matter of if he can fulfill that. And for me, anyway, I really struggle to see Rune fulfilling potential anytime soon. But
yeah, I think he needs a couple more years in his development, because he's still 19, right?
Yeah.
I think, and in some ways we ended up saying the same thing about Felix.
Precisely. Very similar concepts, I think.
I think Rune has had a little bit more success than Felix in terms of going deep in tournaments, but even then he's still not, he's been in 2 1,000 finals now, and he has I lie, he has converted. He's got Paris Masters, he got the 2022 Paris title.
Yeah.
So he's got that. Like, there is a lot of potential. It's just he's not showing it right now, and I guess it's going to depend on what it's going to take to get him back there, to get him where we think he should be.
Yeah, precisely.
But that's, but like track record on raw, his raw level is enough to compete with Alcaraz and Sinner and Djokovic.
So, in saying all this, give me your winner.
Oh, there's 3 names popping into my head.
By the way, Humbert has a break point to go 5-3 up. After Sonego has been bottling break points left, right, center in this second set, so we might go to an epic. But
I feel like we've been talking today, and like over the course of our conversation, I have to say Djokovic, but there's that vulnerability to him still right at this moment right now that makes me not want to fully commit to that. The idea I'm most excited about is Casper Ruud, to be honest. But how realistic that is, given he'd have to beat Djokovic and Sinner potentially, or maybe just Sinner if de Minaur does the job tomorrow. Like I would be super excited to see Casper Ruud winning it. But I can't. If I was to say like definitively who am I going to back, I've got to go with Djokovic.
Yeah,
I got to go with Djokovic.
I'm in the same boat. I think Djokovic is probably the sensible-ish decision, but again, I think Ruud is not one to cross out just yet.
And not like we've also got Jannik Sinner, who's only lost 1 tennis match in 2024.
Yeah. I think it's all going to come down to the top half of the draw, though. I think. Also, just a little scenario to get thinking: if Ruud was to beat Djokovic in a semi-final, a hypothetical semi-final, and make it into the final against Sinner, are you saying Sinner in straights or?
Probably, because I think Ruud would probably have he would have had to play the match of his life to get there. And what you often see is like he would have to play someone who was who didn't have enough to stop him, even if he dipped off a bit. And I could see him dipping off a bit in the next match. And Sinner is not someone you have a little bit of a dip against right now. Like it could be very, very straightforward.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think if Ruud does beat Djokovic, I think that he wouldn't have had to play the match of his life, because I think if that were to happen, it's quite likely that Djokovic could have just been playing abysmally. So I don't know. Yeah, it's tempting. I just looked up their head-to-head, and Ruud's won both. Obviously, doesn't say much considering his age.
When did they play?
Yeah, so they played in Vienna in 2021, and I don't think that was that the last time. No. Oh wait. Sorry. Oh wow. Sinner has won both.
Sinner's won both, yeah, and that's proto Sinner.
Yeah.
That's very much proto Sinner.
Wow. Okay, that changes things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it, and that, and yeah, I think if Djokovic doesn't make it, Sinner's probably the heavy favorite for this. Which would continue his incredible start to the season. And I guess then that kind of leads me on. I've got actually a few questions I want to get your opinion on. How much is this tournament missing Carlos Alcaraz right now?
Yeah, I feel like it's right. I feel like I don't know, even though you've still got some of the, I don't know, it feels like it's missing that, the top guys, even though we've still got Sinner, Djokovic, But other than that, I mean, we've got Rune and Ruud, but feels like, I don't know, the quarterfinals of the Masters. You feel like
I think it's an overall pretty strong quality because de Minaur's top 10, Tsitsipas is knocking on the door of top 10. Khachanov is one of those players that has a lot of respect attached to his name. If anything, the name with the weakest reputation is the two names playing right now, would be the winner of the two names playing right now.
Yeah.
And Sonego's got a decent rep on clay, and Humbert is a top 20 player with some good wins under his belt. So it's not like it's a bunch of it's a nobody.
No, of course.
Okay, is it missing Zverev? Is it missing Rublev? Yes. Is it missing Medvedev? Yes, but I don't think we had high hopes of Medvedev on clay. But you've still, I think that's the beauty of the ATP Tour right now, is the names who do step up are pretty strong. So I wouldn't write it off necessarily. I guess it's not about the quarterfinals strength that means the tournament's potentially missing Alcaraz, but about that that kind of locked in blockbuster. Because I can tell you now, I was all for an Alcaraz Sinner final potentially here.
And I think if he was playing, he probably would have got it. I probably wouldn't say, I couldn't see Alcaraz not making the final. I think, even though he's had a strange track record, he's not really played in Monte Carlo. What is it? He's not played since.
He didn't play last year.
2021.
Played 2022 and went out first round.
Okay.
I don't know about 21.
I thought I saw a thing saying he's not.
Well, this is the second consecutive Monte Carlo that he's missed.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, anyway, I think, if he was fit enough to play, he would be steamrolling his section of the draw, I think, up until Djokovic. But yeah.
Who are you more optimistic about playing Barcelona? Carlos Alcaraz or Rafael Nadal?
I mean, it's gotta be Carlos, but when are we ever gonna see Rafa Nadal make it back?
Everyone's talking really positively about Nadal and how he's been practicing in Barcelona. Like, he's hitting serves. He's had a practice session with Baez.
No, I know,
but Nadal's put something out saying, "I'm feeling good."
It just feels a bit strange because it feels like, he's saving it until he's. I don't understand. Is he saving it until a certain tour? Because I think if he plays one tournament, he's gonna feel the same as if he was to wait a few weeks and play that different tournament. He's gonna feel exactly the same. So I don't know, what is he just waiting for the French? Is that what he's doing? Is he
Rafa? I think Rafa wants to play Barcelona. I think that is his home tournament practically. I know he's from Mallorca, but Mallorca's on grass.
Okay, then to be honest, if he plays Barca, I don't see him playing the French. That's my view on it. I don't think he's able to if he can't pull these tournaments together. I don't see what is the, that's my view on it.
I can see why you think that. I think he definitely risks playing the French more by playing Barcelona. On the other hand, if he's doing this for the sake of playing a farewell tour and for the hope that he gives himself some kind of warm-up, Barcelona has the sentiment and the relevance that could be good for him to just play a match in Barcelona, rest, come back in like 5-6 weeks for Roland Garros. Rest up for that. Like, I could see him playing Barcelona, skipping Madrid, Rome, doing Roland Garros. And let's face it, like, even if it does end up like he overdoes it, and this is, he ends up wrecking his comeback here. Rafael Nadal playing his last match on court, Rafael Nadal, would be an interesting symmetry.
Yeah, I think definitely, and in that sense, maybe it is, but I just think he's not really going to be able to pull tournament after tournament. I think he's, by the sounds of things, depending on, he seems like he's only gonna play a tournament if he feels like he's got a chance of winning it. And if that is the case, then I don't think we'll see him play too many more.
No, I think look, let's face it, the way with his body is, he does seem to be injured very, very easily.
Yeah.
But he wants to play as much as possible. So I am optimistic that Nadal plays Barcelona. Whether that's a wise decision or not, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Carlos, I think, will probably play. We haven't heard anything from Carlos since he said he was pulled out of Monte Carlo. His practice wasn't looking good. There, I don't know if a week is enough to recover. We'll have to see. But I think if he skips Barcelona, there's going to be some trouble there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Really interesting to see some of these narratives play out.
Yeah, indeed. I guess my I know it's not necessarily the biggest question on everyone's lips, but I think we need to talk about. I think we would be remiss to talk about it, not to talk about it, and I think it might get talked about on ATP Weekly. I don't know. Would be Rublev, defending champion, pretty much straight out. Has struggled since that Dubai incident.
Yeah, three losses from 4 since then.
Slump or decline?
Slump.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slump. But yeah, it's tough one with Rublev. Do you think that's kind of that has been playing in his head? That
I don't think that specifically moment is playing in his head. I think it's killed his momentum, and he's having to restart it.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I think Rublev was someone, for me, coming into this season, back end of last season, I thought he I remember speaking to him at the UTS event in December and asking him, what are your goals? Are you ready to start pushing for slam semis and slam finals? Is that your goal? And because he looks, and he started the year really well. He looks like he's tipping over the edge of he's reaching that potential finally and pushing on to these big results. And it's a shame that now he seems to have lost, as you say, lost that bit of momentum with a couple of, by his standards, poor results. Mahach and then Popyrin, to be honest, I watched that match and he did bring it to Rublev. He used the variety so well, and actually did play better than Rublev. So all credit to him. But yeah, it's not. I think Rublev's going through. I can see him snapping out of it.
Yeah, I think he will, and I think clay is probably the ideal for him, because he wants to put himself in the mix, and I think clay is the best opportunity for a Rublev to put himself in the mix. And at some point, I think at some point he will wake up. He'll play an event where he'll just get back a rhythm. I don't know what his schedule is, but I could be optimistic that he just sort of just gets back on with it like he does, and maybe that pressure of defending a title going away will help. But I didn't want to. I wanted to make sure we kind of covered Rublev, because I think he's an interesting point right now, because he's one of those could be names going.
Yeah, exactly. He's right on the edge, and I think, I think he will push on, because I think he's ready. I think he just needs to. There's a few bits of his game and bits of his behavior that he needs to get right, and you'll see him snap out of it, I'm sure.
Well, Sonego and Humbert into a deciding set. They're going to be going for a while. We are not, because it's. I think we've talked tennis for nearly an hour, and I think we've done pretty well out of it. So I'm just going to get Jerome's thoughts on thoughts on tomorrow, and which matches are you going to be watching?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and watch. I mean, try and watch most of them if I can in the background somewhere while I'm at work. But as I said, I think weirdly, I don't know, I'm attracted to this Khachanov Tsitsipas match.
It has potential.
I'm intrigued by it. Yeah. So I think that would be really exciting. I think the others will be more straightforward. I just think that's probably the only one really that I could see going 3. I really don't think Sinner will stumble against Rune. I think that will be pretty comprehensive, and I'll watch Djokovic as well because that will also be an interesting match. But I think, yeah, personally, I can't see. I think they're quite a one-sided quarterfinals. What about you?
I'm going to keep an eye on it. I agree with you. I think there are matches where they're very highly probable to go straights, but they have the quality of players are involved that if they don't, it's going to be special. That being said, I'm also going to be torn because I'm going to want to watch how GB do in the Billie Jean King Cup against France, because there's some interesting matches going on there tomorrow.
Raducanu and Garcia.
Yes, Raducanu Garcia, match number 3, 1 apiece.
Yeah.
On clay, that's going to be interesting. And then Katie Bolter taking on Deanne Parry and looking like she's absolutely thumping the ball on clay. So I'm kind of curious about how that one kind of works out. But I think I'll probably have the Billie Jean King Cup on the background, keep the scores up for Monte Carlo, and if Monte Carlo looks like something's interesting is going on there, I'm going to turn it on.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think kind of splitting image of what I'm going to be doing tomorrow as well.
Yeah. I think you'll be keeping an eye on BJK.
Yeah, definitely. Big game.
Big game indeed. Well, thanks for jumping on, Jerome.
No worries at all. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for talking tennis as always. Thanks everyone for watching. Keep an eye on the channel for news of any more live streams we're going to be doing. We're probably going to do some. No confirmation yet of which matches we'll be doing. But we'll be doing yet. But obviously keep an eye on because we'll probably do something. John will also be bringing you sort of plenty of more interviews from Billie Jean King Cup Europe Africa Group 1 that he's covering over in Portugal. Keep an eye out for any interviews that Eddie's doing from the Busan Challenger as well. Some really, really good stuff there. It's been a great week to get to know some lower ranked players on the channel. And obviously we'll be back to cover more Monte Carlo at some point, like, you know, semi-finals, final, and all that. So like, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for joining. See you soon. But in the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.